welcome back to this episode of Pop's Arcade. Like you, before I got started here on YouTube, I thought this was something that would require like $1,000 minimum just to get started. I was too busy watching some of the bigger creators on YouTube, and I'll admit it was very intimidating. However, through a lot of research and trial and error, I have found there are some really good budget solutions. And item by item, I'm going to go over with you what I do to create gaming content on a budget. Now, I do believe it is important to set some expectations here. Number one, this is not a how-to on how to get more views, because quite frankly, I have not yet figured that out. And also, this isn't really a how-to on how to find your voice and get more comfortable with your YouTube channel, just because, you know, frankly, that is something I'm still working on, and I don't think that's something that can really be taught. I believe that is something you have to learn from trial and error, but this is more of a technical gear type of a thing. So now that I have all the expectations set, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, any essential for any gaming content creator is a microphone. Now, in the beginning, I did use a mobile phone microphone, which oddly enough, I was never able to get to work on a mobile phone. It was plug and play on my PC. If you go into my history, you'll see a video called Port of Call. It was for a game called Port of Call. Every video prior to that, I used that. It's not great. It was like $10 at Walmart. It's made by a company called Bauer. But, you know, it's something. Now I use a microphone called a Fifine T669. It's not on Blue Yeti level, but it's $45 on Amazon, and it comes with a complete microphone kit. Most of the $45 mics that I've seen that are of similar quality, they don't come with a kit, which is a bare minimum $25 in addition if you were to go another route. So here, and also this boom arm, even after I upgrade the mic, I am keeping this boom arm. This thing does not move. And also this kit, as you can see, comes with boom arm, shock mount, windscreen. It also has a pop filter, although I will admit the pop filter is not great. It keeps giving under its own weight, and I don't feel like tying it down. Although if I just keep this away from my face, like right now it's like right above, you can't even see it. Okay, but as long as it's not directly in front of your face, pop filter is not super necessary. And also it comes with a desk stand as well, so if you want a good budget option for a mic, by all means go with a Fifine. And there are some settings tweaks you can do to make it sound even better, although I will be getting to that in a moment. All right, up next we do have software. The standard software for pretty much everyone except for some streamers is a software called OBS. It is a free open source software. There are some competitors, but a lot of times they have a premium option, and they'll limit your resolution and or video length. Don't bother with those guys. Go with OBS. Since it is open source, if there's any sort of like an enhancement you would want, there's probably a free plugin on how to use it. And even though it is very intuitive once you get the hang of it, initially it can be a little intimidating. I highly recommend, and there will be a link in the description, a creator called The Video Nerd. He's on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and type The Video Nerd blank OBS, you're going to find a how-to. And if the video itself does contain outdated information, typically he'll include a link in the description, linking you to a more present and relevant video. This guy's amazing when it comes to things for recording, streaming, microphone settings, etc. He is the guy to go to. Next is your face camera. Now, whenever I was initially looking at webcams, I found a lot of the webcams that were within my budget, even though they boasted 1080 or 4K, the megapixels were fairly low. So even with the extra resolution, it just didn't look great. Imagine like a game that's set to 4K settings, but the textures are low, if that makes sense. Yeah, the resolution's there, but the picture just wasn't. And also, I was trying to go as cheap as possible, and I discovered an app called Iriun. Is that it? Is that how you pronounce it? Iriun? There are various other apps like it. I have this on Android. I don't know what the Apple options are, but basically it allows you to turn your phone into a webcam. These apps got popular mainly because of work from home during the pandemic, or during the peak of the pandemic, that is. And it is a great option just because most mobile phones, number one, you already have one. Second of all, a lot of them do boast better resolutions than webcams at a similar price point. Like for instance, right now I have a Motorola 5G stylus. It's 48 megapixels on the back cam, and is it as good as like a Logitech that costs like $400? No, it's not. I don't know if they make them that expensive, but either way, it is a great option, especially since most of my face cam footage is in a little corner of the screen. it looks just fine, and it's with something I already own. And one cool option is, I don't know if you can do this in Apple, if you have Android like I do, you can enable developer mode and have your video signal travel through a USB cord as opposed to having to rely on Wi-Fi, because I don't have the best internet, and if you're like that, or if your internet's just out, you can still record game footage. It's a great option. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say, if you're brand new, unless you have like a photography habit and you already have like a DSLR or something, don't even bother looking for a webcam. Just use your phone, or an old phone that's in your drawer or something. Okay, up next we have capture cards. Now the first capture card I had, I'm gonna put an image over here. I think it was like 15 or 20 bucks. It doesn't really have a brand name. Whenever you look for capture cards at this price range, you notice they all look the same. I suspect that all these companies just bought these off the same wholesaler in China. It was consistent. It worked for me. Now, a lot of people complained that it didn't work properly, although from what I saw, most of these retailers will work with them on getting a brand new one out, which is good. And the only negative was on the one I had, if you were at 1080, you were limited to 30 frames a second. Although, let's say if you are streaming previous gen or even previous gen to that consoles like PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, a lot of the AAA games mainly were stuck at 30 frames anyway. Or let's say if you have a PS2 or a GameCube or something like that, have like an HDMI adapter, just drop it to 720. I mean, those games were already not at 720 to begin with, so it's still going to look great, and you will get great capture. I'd say the first 10 videos I did that were done with video capture, maybe more, were done with this capture card, and it looks great. So as long as you don't need 1080-60, that's a great option. Although now I have since upgraded. As much as I would like to have an Elgato, it just seems like a lot for what you get. And what you get is good, but it's just very expensive. So I have an EVGA XR1 Lite. It allows me to do 1080p at 60 frames per second, and if you pay up, I think, an extra $50 or so, you can do 60 frames on 1440p. I would have gotten that, but it was sold out at the time, and also I have bad uploads, so uploading like a long 1440p video, I'm learning from experience, is not great. And one last note about that first capture card I mentioned. Let's say if you have a photography habit, or if you have like an old digital camera around, if it has HDMI out, you can use that to make your face cam. So let's say if you are into photography and you have a DSLR and you don't want to buy another camera, just buy that little $15 capture card and it's going to look great. Another thing I want to mention was my tripod and my ring light. Now the tripod I use, it's made by a company called Bauer. It was about 15 bucks. It's designed for mobile phones. It goes up to 3 feet tall, although one issue is it's very narrow at the base, so it does get very top heavy, even if you don't modify the top like I did. And the way I modified the top was I got this ring light from Bauer. As you can see, the desk stand doesn't look great. I was using it for a while. I was very limited in how I can raise or lower the camera. So I actually took the mobile phone holder off the top of my tripod and put my ring light up there. And it works great, although, again, even though the tripod can go up to 3 feet, if I push beyond 1.5 feet, which is about where it is now, it will fall over. And that's even if I don't use the ring light. But at the same time, if you want a tabletop solution as far as your camera goes, it's a great option. And last but not least, games. Now, let's say if you're a Fortnite streamer or an Apex streamer, you're already not paying for the game, so you don't need to find any budget solution for it. But there are a few things I do that allow me to get games. Number one, current day, I do use Game Pass. Now, bear in mind, Game Pass is not free. However, for $14.99 a month, it does give me access to a bunch of games on console and PC. Or let's say you're just a PC player. That's $9.99 a month, and most of the games on Game Pass, assuming they have PC ports, either already have the game or they will in the future, most likely. But I believe the first month I had it was like $1, so I'd say it's worth doing that $1 trial just to see what they got. Another great option, let's say you're more of an indie game player, go to itch.io. It's itch.io. That's where I got a lot of the horror games I played in the beginning. Most of the ones I got were free, and the ones that cost were not that expensive. At the bare minimum, it's worth a search. There's some great indie stuff out there, and Steam does have a decent selection of free games, but itch.io, that is the indie game jam, super creative paradise. Totally worth a look. And last but not least for today, we gotta talk thumbnails. Up until just recently, I was using Pixel Lab on my phone, and the results showed. Although recently, I believe it was with my Batman Returns for Master System video, I switched to Canva. Bear in mind, I'm dropping some brand names here. No one's paying me. I have 66 subscribers. But I went to Canva. Canva, even though they do have a paid tier and they do kind of limit your options, is a great tool for building thumbnails, YouTube channel art. I have a logo as like a placeholder until I can actually afford to pay a graphic designer to make one for me. I made all that in Canva. So if you want something that looks professional, or at least looks better than something you would just draw up on your mobile phone, Canva's a great option. Oh, and last but not least, one other quick thing. My thumbnails, initially I was manually drawing out the background in an app. Did not look great. I switched to Remove.bg. I will put a link to that in the description. And even though you can only download low res for free, the low res looks just like the photo. So it's a great option, and my click-through rate has improved since. All right, that's all for today's episode. Basically, in the beginning, I was searching frantically for all these solutions. I thought I'd give you a one-stop shop, just some suggestions. And bear in mind, this is just what I did. That doesn't mean that this is the right and or wrong way to do it. I just want to let you know what I did. And again, this is not the secret to YouTube success, but it will save you some sanity and some cash. So if you have any questions or anything like that related to what I said today, or any other suggestions, by all means, go to the comments and let me know. But yeah, that's all for today's episode of Pop's Arcade, and I will see you next time.